Hey, I'm back. This is Chandler for Melder Production, and today I want to talk about MTurboComp. So most people know MTurboComp is a compressor that can do lots of different types of compressor sounds. It models a lot of them. But actually, one thing people may not be familiar with is the fact that MTurboComp actually has a second plugin called MTurboComp MB that comes with it. And this is just a multi-band version of the plugin, which allows you to do lots of interesting things, multi-band, and not only multi-band split by frequency, but other things too. So I thought I'd show you two ways to do multi-band compression here, but there's other ways, and I probably won't show these in these videos, but maybe another video in the future. But anyways, let's get to it. So let's open this up here, and it says MTurboComp MB. So this is the multi-band version. If you look at the top, there are 3 different bands. Now each of these we can set as a different band, and let me just bypass this, and I'll let you hear just 2 songs I wrote a while ago, and let's hear them without the compression on. So it's just kind of a hip-hop thing. So let's turn this on, and I'll show you how I might go about using multi-band compression on this. So if you right-click up here, you can insert bands, you can set the default number of bands, etc. You can also change this to these different modes like analog, which this is, I believe, minimum phase, and then linear phase is like linear phase. Analog LP is analog linear phase. So I believe the slope is a little bit different. So you can experiment with these and find out which one works best for you. I think hybrid is also the same. It just has slightly different slopes. So I would just use your ears. Most of the time I find minimum phase is okay, but there might be a few times, like for example, if you're mastering, when you might want to use linear phase, but let your ear be the judge. I'm going to use 3 bands to start, so I think 24 decibels per octave is good. Seems all right. Now, I probably want to start with the low end, so what I usually do is just solo this here and listen to it, so I just want to hear like the bass and the kick. So that's what I want. I'm not really hearing anything else besides that. Now what I want to do is kind of choose which of these I want. So it's lots of compressor models, and if you click here the information, it'll kind of give you some info here. So MSLE, okay, that's okay, but I don't really want to use it for that. Keyboards, guitars, 1176, I don't really want that for my bass drum. This might be good. So DBML 160. So I think this is was it DBX 160. So this might be good. So let's try this, and I'm just going to try to do a little bit of compression. So if I open the meters here, it'll show me how much compression I'm doing. Let's see if I can make this just a little bit smaller there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the gain reduction, and I'm going to adjust the threshold and the attack. So here we go. Okay, so that seems pretty good. I'm not doing too much. It looked like I was doing about like 3 to 4 decibels of compression. See that again. Yeah, that's good. Now let's move up to the next band and adjust this so I hear the correct frequency range. I don't want to hear too much of the hi-hats. I just want to hear more of like the snare drum and some of those melodic instruments. That's good. Now, let's see, what can I use for this? Let's try MSL Bus. Best on Master. Let's see, E. Okay, let's try this. MSL E for this. And let's hear how this sounds. That seems pretty good. And oh, another thing I probably should mention here is you can also adjust the saturation, which I really like. So I'll probably go down here to this one, listen to it again, and adjust the saturation, just so if you're listening to it on smaller speakers, you'll be able to hear it. So I'll just turn this up a little bit. Okay, and I thought the middle sounding pretty good, and now let's do the same thing with the high end. I think, okay, what compressor do I want to use for that? I could use anything really. Just for something else, let's try something a little bit different. I want to try Neve, I guess. So let's hear what this sounds like. So I think that's interesting, and let's try to do something with this that you don't normally do, or you can't normally do with a multi-band compressor. So let's try to use the saturation so it works almost like an exciter, and then we'll do parallel compression. We'll move the wet-dry ratio down. So let's hear that. Okay, now let's hear them all together. Okay, that's sounding pretty good, but let's reduce the output so the input and the output are close to equal, and then we can compare the dry and the wet version. That looks like probably as close as we can get to having them even. So let's hear it first with it off. So I like that a little bit better. I probably need to check that on headphones and everything, but it seemed to really bring out the crispness of it, and those hi-hats really came out, and it seemed to give it a little bit more stereo width. It probably didn't. It just probably made the hi-hats a little bit more prominent, so it sounds a little bit more stereo, and it made the bass hit a little bit harder, at least to me. So this is one way you can do this, but let's look at something else we could do with this. So let's try a different one. And what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to right click and then click 2. This is going to erase all my settings, but that's what I want in this case. Okay. Now let's bypass this and just hear this dry. Okay, so this is one I wrote before. If you're wondering where it came from, it's on my page if you want to hear the rest of the song. But anyway, let's get to it. So I'm going to right click here again, bypass it first. And I think 2 bands are good in this case. I'm going to leave it with this, actually not leave it on the analog crossover. I'm going to change it, and let's do some mid-side this time. So click here. And now you see that the band on the left here is the mid, and the band on the right is the side. So what I want to do is just solo this first, and then I'm going to move this over until you can't hear any of the sides. So let's play this and move it over. Okay, there we go. And then we can unsolo this. Ooh, well, that's a little bit hard. If you're wondering, like, oh, it's all the way over here, how am I supposed to move it back and forth? You can also click these arrows to switch between mid and side if this is in the way. But that just narrows it, so now band 1 is just the mid information, band 2 is the side information. And let's do something like a classic Fairchild. So look here where it says Fair Meld, there. Now, I'm going to do the mid, and what I'm going to do first, I'll probably use the detector to decrease some of the high pass, so I don't want the bass, acting too much as far as compression goes. Then I'll adjust the threshold, release, etc. on just the mid first. Here we go. That seems pretty good. Now let's do the same thing to the side. Oh, forgot to change it to the same one, fair meld. Here we go. Okay, that seems pretty good. I can do the same thing. Let's turn the saturation up a little bit on the side. Not too much. And now let's try to balance the output gain so the input and the output are the same. Okay, now they should be roughly matched, and let me bypass it so you can hear it without the effect on. So when it's on, I can definitely hear a lot more width going through there, which is what I wanted. I want to make, wider and bigger and larger, etc. But I used the fair meld here, but you could use any combination of compressors here. I used 2 bands here, but you could use anything you want. You don't even have to use the mid side. You could use panorama. So now it's, left and right, left side, right side, and you can do things that way, which to me, I don't use that so often, but every once in a while, if there's just, let's say, one delay is much louder than the other, maybe I want to do that. So it can be useful sometimes, but check out some of the other modes because there's all sorts of interesting things you can do with this, especially in combination with these different compressor models. So I hope that gave you some ideas of things you can do yourself. If you like this, give me a thumbs up, subscribe, check out all the other plugins at melderproduction.com, and until next time, see you.